Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we're mad at Masahiro Sakurai for recapping all the Smash character reveal videos before we got a chance to. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including some early Kirby sales numbers and the lack of a Kirby timeline. And then on Thursday, we're closing out Kirby month with Matt Acevedo by discussing Kirby and Forgotten Land. But in the meantime, Mark, how you doing?
I can't believe that we're almost at the end of Kirby
month. I
month.
can't believe that we're almost at the end of Kirby month.
I am glad that we're cramming in as much Kirby as we can because this news episode is chock full of Kirby.
Chock full of it. Look, we knew what we were doing when we were like, there are going to be 5 topic episodes all about Kirby, plus all of the news stories in up to the release and just a little bit after the release of Kirby and the Forgotten Land are going to be all about Kirby too. We are up to our eyeballs in Kirby.
And if you're short like Kirby, not that hard to do.
It's not that high. It's not really that high. Yeah, because his eyeballs probably start. How tall is Kirby?
I am going to venture that Kirby's about
2 feet tall?
2 feet tall. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, maybe like 26 inches.
Very, very precise. Yeah.
Okay, so Kirby's like 26 inches tall. And his eyeballs are like halfway up his body?
At best.
Maybe even a little lower?
Maybe a little lower.
So it's like a foot off the ground?
Kirby, okay, we've been keeping this running list of pro cons for Kirby as our life partner. Con, he's not going to be able to go on very many roller coasters with you.
He is not. However, sometimes he will be able to transform himself into the roller coaster car and go on the ride by himself. So, like, that's pretty cool, right?
That's right. And there'll just be one train where, the little air gate will open, but the workers will say, no, nobody get on.
Right.
And then
this
little
one's for Kirby.
It's going to waddle out, do his mouthful mode.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And as Kirby's partner,
yes,
you'll just be happy, that he's getting to experience the roller coaster.
Well, and you're on the one right behind him, right? Like you're
right.
You're not together, but I mean, you're not like sharing witticisms during a roller coaster ride, right? Like it's not a point of conversation. You talk about it immediately after.
You're not going to be able to get like the fun photo together. I'm just saying, I understand that Kirby can have his own roller coaster experience, but for me, this is a con on my list of whether Kirby would make a good life partner or not.
Yeah, well, even still, we stand a short king, okay? So, like, that's okay. Mark, if you stand a short king, you can borrow my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. All you got to do is email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com and give us a mailing address so we can send you my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. There may, however, be a copy of Untitled Goose Game in there. Either way, you play the game for as long as you want. You put it in an envelope, you send it back. I pay for postage both ways. It doesn't cost you anything. Now, Mark, we got a tweet from at Moro Bros saying, Nintendo Cartridge Society, I now own both Sonic Forces and Untitled Goose Game for the Nintendo Switch. It is with great sadness that I ask my name to be removed from the Sonic Forces borrowing program. Thank you so much for the opportunity to participate in such a perfect program. Moro Bros, we don't have to remove your name. If you don't have to play the games when they're sent to you. You can do whatever you want with them.
Right. And, who knows what's going to happen between now, like this very moment.
This is not a threat.
And when.
This is not a threat.
Yeah, that's a real. Oh, Moro Bros, that's a really nice copy of Sonic Forces and Untitled Goose Games that you have there. It'd be a real shame if something happened to it.
Nintendo Cartridge Society is not issuing a threat
before your name comes up.
Theft or burglary of any kind.
Borrow it from the Sonic Forces borrowing program. But I think, Patrick, that's a great point. As a perfect program, of course, Moro Bros will remove your name if that is what you wish. But congratulations on owning both of these games.
Yes, congratulations.
But just let us know.
Anyone else, though?
Yeah.
Anyone else, though? We've taken care of the Mora Bros business, but anyone else, if you would like to get on the list, just email us, Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com.
Another thing you can do is you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts, just like BGHHNVGH did.
I believe it's pronounced
Oh, yes, of course. This is another Mar 10 situation for sure. Thank you, BGHHNVGH, for your 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate it so much. When people leave us 5-star reviews, it helps people find the show. Patrick and I love reading them, especially when there is an answer to a question that we posed on the show, like BGHHNVGH did in their review entitled Waddle Dee. So a few weeks ago, Patrick and I, in our discussion, in one of our many discussions about Kirby, were wondering...
I like to think of it as one ongoing discussion
That's
about
right.
Kirby.
That's right. It's not a one... It's not a 5-part Kirby month. It's a five. I'm trying to do the TV show like it's not a TV show. It's like a 5-episode movie type thing.
Oh, sure. Okay.
I'm having trouble with the mapping.
Just let the listener do the mapping on it themselves. They know. Look, Mark. They know the joke you're trying to make.
Yeah.
I feel like that counts.
All
right.
Perfect. What was
the question
the question that
raised.
came up? That's right. So the question that came up was, what's the deal with Waddle Dees? Because we have Bandana Waddle Dee, who is your co-op partner, like your helper. But then there are also in Kirby games like Waddle Dee enemies.
Right.
So what's the deal?
Not in the Forgotten Land. In the Forgotten Land, they're all your bros.
Yes.
Yeah.
So BGHHNVGH says in their review, I looked it up, and the Waddle Dees are only hurting Kirby because they have been bribed by the villains in a lot of the games. A small group of them work with Bandana Waddle Dee, who, based on the trailer for The Forgotten Land, is Kirby's friend. Love your show. Bye!
Bye, BGHHNVGH. Well, that is interesting. I find it troubling that they're so easily bribed into committing acts of violence.
I know. I think it's really funny. Because I think that means the Waddle Dees are pretty dumb. Right? That they can be easily swayed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess...
They're like pandas. They're like the pandas of...
what do you mean?
Pandas are not that smart.
Oh, okay.
They can't figure out how to reproduce.
I thought you were about to tell me that, pandas are famously bribable.
Into committing acts of violence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could
be. I'm not an expert.
It felt strange, so I thought I had to investigate a little bit further. That's great. I do want to emphasize. Thank you so much for writing that review in. But I do want to emphasize that even if you do not have an answer to one of our more pressing questions, please go ahead and leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. We love seeing them,
and we'll give you a shout out on the show. If you leave us a review, not on the Apple Podcast Store, let us know. Hit us up on Twitter, send us an email, and we'll give you a shout out that way.
Mark, speaking of emails, we've got an email from Xander. Xander's asking a bunch of questions. So I feel like we just got to hit all these questions, one right after the other, a little bit of rapid fire. But if we need to, we need to slow down, we need to slow down. That's okay. Question number 1. Have you guys played Sonic Unleashed or Colors before? If so, would you recommend it?
I have not.
I have not either. I would not recommend playing Sonic Unleashed, though. I only know that game by its bad reputation. And also the Colors remaster from last year, also not great by reputation. So I kind of wouldn't recommend either. But again, we've not played either. Question number 2. Would you guys want either Samus Aran, Captain Falcon, Fox McCloud, or Cloud Strife in Mario Kart?
If I had to choose one...
Yes.
I would say Cloud Strife, so that way I feel no compulsion to play Chocobo GP.
Right, and pay for the season pass there.
Yes.
Yeah, I will even, I'm going to go ahead and reject the premise of the question. I don't want any of these characters. I do not want Mario Kart to become Smash Kart. I think it's fun that the Animal Crossing characters and the Splatoon characters and Link are in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but I don't need it. I don't need it to be all of Nintendo. Question number 3. If you could make a Kirby game, what would it be?
I think it'd be funny if Kirby was a detective in a Detective Pikachu kind of vein, but no talking. I don't need Kirby to talk.
Do people talk to Kirby? Or is it a silent detective game? Or is he teaming up with Poirot or someone?
Yeah, maybe he's teaming up with the famous detective.
Yeah, I like that. like the Agatha Christie Kirby mysteries.
Yes.
Kirby's Block Ball 2 for me. Question number 4. If you could bring one indie game character into Smash other than Shovel Knight, who would it be? Xander gives his answer, but Mark, do you have an answer?
I would choose the unnamed protagonist from Golf Story, because I think it's about time that somebody in Smash Brothers could use a golf club as a weapon.
Does really no one use... Oh, you're just trying to scoop Waluigi? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, that's right.
Xander's answer is my answer. He says, I would want Zagreus, the protagonist from Hades. He would be perfect for the game. He has lots of optional moves, and his stage would be constantly changing due to the roguelike nature of his game. This is great. This is a perfect answer. Hades, a game that I poured like 200 hours into. I would love to be able to play that character in Smash Brothers. Question number 5. What are you going to do for Kirby's 25th anniversary? Might I suggest making playlists of Kirby songs and talking about them on the pod? Xander, this is what we're doing. Kirby month is what we're doing. It's also the 30th anniversary of Kirby and not 25th. Mark, do you think we should do something else for Kirby's anniversary, or are we doing it right now?
I feel like we're doing it.
I feel like we're doing it.
But also, Kirby month has definitely, done something to my mind. So in a few weeks, in a few months, when we're not talking about Kirby regularly, I might be like jonesing for it.
Boy, that is a great point.
And we might need to do something else Kirby just because.
I mean, look, we're going on another podcast tomorrow to talk about Kirby. So our whole week is kind of talking about Kirby. So maybe we will get to a point where I'm like, oh man, I need it. I need a fix of talking about this little pink puff ball. But Mark, I'll tell you what, I'm not there yet.
Never say never.
No, and I did not. Mark, let's get into the games we've been playing this week. And the game we've both been playing is Kirby and the Forgotten Land. But we're doing a whole episode about it on Thursday. So Mark, just in the meantime, what do we want to give like some kind of like impressions, or what are you thinking you want to say about Kirby and the Forgotten Land now?
Yeah, I don't know. I am pretty far into it. I actually think I'm like towards the end of the game.
Yeah.
And I am really enjoying it.
I am really enjoying it as well. It's amazing to me how much I get out of leveling up the copy abilities. It finally feels like the Kirby copy abilities are like my arsenal of weapons that I get to use as I see fit, that I get to change as I see fit. Feels really good. I feel like I have ownership over the way the game is played.
Yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of smart and unexpected decisions in Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
I hesitate to even say anything else about it.
Yeah, let's save it for Thursday.
Let's save it
for
for
good
Thursday.
Discussion.
We're gonna save it. It's gonna be a great time. Mark, have you been playing anything else this week?
No, it's been all Kirby and the Forgotten Land all the time.
That has been the same for me. Mark, let's close this out and get into the new releases.
Here's something I don't have anything to say about about.
Right. The new releases next week seem there's nothing in here I'm interested in at all.
Right. Should we just run off a couple of them, even though we don't necessarily know what they are?
Sure, let's pick 2 from each day, so we each get one to announce from each day.
All right, so today, March 29th, WRC 10 is released on Switch.
Also on Tuesday, March 29th, Vengeful Heart.
And then on Wednesday, March 30th, Agent Intercept.
And of course, Katie and Meow Meow Land.
On Thursday, March 31st, Marble Maid is released.
And Red Wings, American Aces.
And then on Friday, April 1st, Terror Bane.
And Flat Kingdom Papers Cut Edition. Mark, we're so close to Lego Star Wars. We're so close to the Chrono Cross Radical Dreamers Edition. I got a little email from Nintendo because I had the Chrono Cross pre-ordered, being like, we're going to charge a card soon. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah, that means we're just a little over a week away then.
Yeah. But it is not this week. We will talk about them again next week. I'm very excited for both of those games to come out.
Switch Sports is also April.
Oh my gosh, yes. So while this week is a little on the quiet side, I think it's okay. we just had Kirby, and we got a lot more coming. All right, Mark, let's close this segment out. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or a group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, you have proposed today's topic. What are we talking about?
We're going to be talking about learning to play a musical instrument. And the reason I was thinking about this, Patrick, is you play the upright bass.
Yes.
Which is that you went to
went to a conservatory.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And is that what you played at the conservatory? Is that like what you studied, is upright bass?
Yeah, I had lessons and bass studio and played in orchestras and stuff, yeah.
Was that your first instrument? Because you can also play the piano.
Right.
And so how, as somebody who I took piano lessons when I was like 6, but did not like pursue it, cannot play a musical instrument today, except the old ham bone. What?
I bet you can play a mean pair of spoons too.
Which did you learn first? Or do those skills translate where it's like, oh, once I learned the upright bass, or once I learned the piano, it was kind of like easy to learn the other because it's all just reading notes? Or how does that work? How does your mind work?
Okay. Whoa. The question took a weird left turn there at the end. I started playing in 4th grade, and I started playing on the cello, which I played for 2 years. And then because I was tall and a boy, they were like, why don't you move over to the bass? It's a big instrument. And so my friend Jeff and I, who were taking cello together, both got moved on to bass.
How can I stop real quick there? How did you get started on cello?
It was a thing where they were bringing the orchestra instruments around to elementary schools for a half an hour at the end of the day, one day, and being like, try these instruments. Do you like any of them? And I have no idea why. I was like, the cello, I'll play the cello. But I think I knew I wanted to play an instrument, despite the fact that neither my older sister nor my parents are musically inclined really in any way at all. We did not grow up with music in the house, really. But I liked it, and the orchestra instruments came around before the band instruments. So I was going to play violin, viola, or cello. And again, I think it was a matter of I was big, and so they just put me behind a cello, and I was like, I like this.
And so did the skills from the cello to the upright bass translate? Because to my untrained eye, they look very similar.
They're very similar, but they play really different roles in ensembles, and the solo repertoire is totally different. There's no by playing bass in junior high school, I was immediately put in jazz band, right? That never would have happened if I stayed with cello. And so this is where I can start to answer your question a little bit about piano. I never took a piano lesson in my life. But I always had bass teachers, and was learning that in a very studious, specific to the instrument kind of way. But when I started to study jazz, and then when I got into college and I was doing music theory stuff, that's when I needed to just have the entire harmonic layout of a piece of music at my fingertips. And so I taught myself piano from that.
Oh, interesting. So is that why a lot of compositions, film scores and stuff are worked at the piano before they're orchestrated?
Yeah, well, because then you've got all of it, right? When you're playing bass, you essentially have access to one melodic line possible at a given time, and you can't really. There's some they're called double stops when you play 2 strings at the same time to get 2 different notes and sort of approximate a chord. But you can actually play a full chord and then play a melody on top of it on the piano by yourself. You have obviously not the full range of timbres that an orchestra does, but you have the ability to replicate either what a band or an orchestra does.
That makes a lot of sense.
And mostly I was playing piano so I could write pop songs for the group I was in in college called Dennis. We were like if Ben Folds 5 had a string quartet with them all the time. And then I continued to write songs on the piano for the Lost band that I was in high school, or in after college. We only played and we only wrote and performed songs about the TV show Lost. We're called Sonic Weapon Fence. We're on Spotify. You can look us up. And we're good. But yeah, even though we would then translate those to like guitar and bass, sometimes piano, I wrote them all on piano. We were accompanied, Mark, thank you for letting me talk about my experience learning to play musical instruments. Did you play an instrument?
I mean, when I was like 6, I had nothing to add. That was way more. That was way better.
Well, we were accompanied today by pianist Kyle Shaw. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
As you may have heard, Kirby and the Forgotten Land released just last Friday, so we'll have to wait a little bit to see exactly where it stacks up against Nintendo's list of best-selling Switch games. But reporting from GameIndustry.biz's Christopher Drink suggests it's on a promising path, at least in the UK. Drink reports that K and TFL had...
That's Kirby and the Forgotten Land. You got so good at reading the username of
yes
of the 5-star review that we left behind that you could just pick up. How do you do that?
How did I not recognize the acronym that everybody is referring to Kirby and the Forgotten Land by?
Is anyone using that acronym?
K ampersand TFL had the biggest Kirby launch ever in the UK by a, quote, big margin. Already, it's the 5th best-selling Kirby game in the UK after just one weekend in stores. And it was the best-selling physical game in the UK last week, full stop, beating out the also new Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which is the new Borderlands spinoff.
Which also, had a pretty successful launch. So, like, all of which is just to say that Kirby is selling pretty well.
Yeah. And while that is impressive, it is important to note that Metroid Dread managed to outsell Kirby in its opening weekend, both retail only. So it'll just be interesting to see where things land with Kirby.
And Metroid, not famously a great seller,
but maybe front-loaded.
Yeah, yes. Oh, I think definitely. I think there's more of a fervent maniac attachment to Metroid and less so to Kirby, right? Like, I think Kirby is the kind of game that like people will get around to when they're ready to, and the Metroid people are just going to want that Metroid game right away.
Speaking of Kirby, if you were worried that the Kirby...
Speaking of Kirby.
Something we rarely do on this show recently. If you were worried that the Kirby series is due for like a timeline reckoning in the vein of the much vaunted, maybe dreaded Zelda timeline, HAL Laboratory General Director Shinya Kumazaki is here to soothe those fears. In an interview with the Washington Post, Kumazaki says, quote, "There is no clear timeline for the game's stories. This is to avoid being constrained by past settings, and so that we can easily take on new challenges and prioritize the optimal gameplay experience for each installment, even in a series with a long history. However, we can't progress the story much if we have Kirby meet King Dedede for the first time in the opening of each game, so new installments inherit story elements that can be naturally accepted and easily understood by the players. For example, we use story elements that are effective at making each new game better, such as when the character Magalore repented his past actions and moved to Dreamland, or when Meta Knight got his revenge on Kirby."
Truly, who could forget these pivotal story moments? I think really what we're learning here is the story in Kirby doesn't matter.
No. As much as we all cried when Magalore repented his past actions and moved to Dreamland.
Look, you and I have dedicated the entire month to playing Kirby games. We've played a lot of them. Who's Magalore?
Of course, Magalore would be one of the characters in one of the Kirby games we have not played.
My guess, I'm going to guess and then I'm going to look it up, is that Magalore is the bad guy from Star Allies.
Okay.
But I'm looking it up.
All right. While you're looking it up, I'll continue what Kumazaki said. I also pay attention to the details when writing the text for the story. This is because if future installments are going to inherit these story elements, we need to first prepare detailed settings for each installment. However, the main focus of the Kirby series is action and gameplay, so we prepare the settings required to make those elements more appealing in each game. I like the part at the very beginning where they say that there's no clear timeline for the series, but they can't progress the story much if, Kirby meets King DDD all the time. And I've got to say, Batman, take a lesson from
Batman,
this.
take a note.
Yeah.
We don't need pearls in an alley.
We got to
Did you see the new Batman
I
movie?
haven't seen the new Batman yet.
Yeah, me neither.
But I just feel like we got to move on. We have got to get Robin in here sometime.
We have to get Robin. We have to get Talia al Ghul, which I know that the Dark Knight Rises did. But we need Damian Wayne. And then we need Bruce Wayne to die so that Dick Grayson as Batman and Damian Wayne as Robin can be Dick Bats together. Yeah. They're the best.
We just need some growth from Bruce Wayne is all I'm saying.
Growth from Bruce Wayne. Yeah, it turns out Magalore has been in the series since Kirby's return to Dreamland. So he's been in he's been in like a bunch of these games. Evidently, he's in Planet Robobot.
Huh.
A game that we discussed not that long ago.
Maybe I don't know who Magalore is, so maybe if Magalore did show up in Planet Robobot, I would have no idea.
Boy, that's a great point. But yeah, I mean, this is my preference for a game like this, where they're just like, no, there's no timeline.
Right.
Like, what would be a fun, cute place to put Kirby into an adventure?
Yeah.
And like, it's like Mickey Mouse, right? Like, they're not going to explain Mickey meeting Pete or whatever. He's just there, and like, he's the bad guy, and you deal with it. Or they're working together now, and that's fine too.
Also, if you've been playing Kirby in the Forgotten Land and are a little confused about what the heck Waddle Dee liveries present codes are,
present codes,
yeah, and where they come from, we have some answers.
Or maybe some questions too.
So mostly these are promotional passwords that reward Kirby in coins, the rare stones, or power-ups. That these codes are like appearing on websites and social media. So Nintendo has been like tweeting them out and stuff.
Yeah. So if we're just gonna speak a couple of these, so you can enter them, and they're all caps, no spaces. You can enter mouthful mode to get a bunch of coins and a car mouth cake.
You can enter Kirby Microsite for a bunch of coins and then an attack boost.
Brawling Coliseum, remember Coliseum has 1 L and 2 S's, gets you even more coins and an attack boost.
Clear Demo is just straight up star coins.
First password is the one that the Waddle Dee in the game gives you. So there's one. Kirby Story gets you 300 coins.
Kirby the Gourmet is a good one. Gets you a rare stone and a car mouth cake.
New Adventure gives you 300 star coins and a rare stone.
And then Thank You Meta Knight gives you 3 rare stones.
Which is good because the rare stones... I've never reached a point in the game where I'm like fighting against the economy of the game, but there was one time I tried to upgrade something and they were like, you don't have enough rare stones. And I was like, what? So yeah, just getting 3 extra ones would be good. This is a weird inclusion in the game, Mark. How do you feel about this?
The way that they're distributing them, I think, is interesting.
Yeah.
Where some of them are limited time, some of them are permanent, but that they're mostly just, being tweeted out. It's not like there's a persistent source of it. And so there are obviously permanent ones, which I think are good because someday these are just going to disappear. Do you know what I mean? It's just be like an element of the game that you have to look up online or search back through their tweets. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like an interesting path to pursue.
It's also the kind of thing that makes me wonder, like, why are they doing it this way though? Because it's like, why drive you when you've already bought the game and are already playing the game? Why drive you to the website for the game? Like,
right.
I understand they'll normally do these things where you can like go to the website and find the like 5 hidden Goombas or whatever and get platinum points to use with your My Nintendo account. I get that because you're opting in from outside the game. But if you are playing Kirby in the Forgotten Land, you've already bought the game. Like, what more can they advertise to you about Kirby?
Maybe in the future they'll use it to distribute other things. I don't know exactly what.
Yeah, I don't really know either.
Yeah.
It seems like what it should really be is just like every day or every couple days, there just like is a new thing. They just like push an update to everyone and like, here you've got this little reward.
I also think I did not like really discover it the way that you're supposed to because, when you go to the store for the first time, they you're encouraged to like investigate the walls around Waddle Dee Town and find the codes. But I didn't do that because I had already seen articles and tweets about like, here are all the codes.
Oh, interesting.
So I was like, oh, this is where I enter the codes. And then I went online, found an article that listed all of them, and was just like, I just entered them. I didn't know investigation or know like, I didn't engage with the gameplay element of it at all.
Well, and it's only one place where you look and you get first password.
Oh,
there aren't others.
I thought for some reason that there were like a couple of others in Waddle Dee Town.
Honestly, that could you saying that makes me now doubt myself. I only found the one because I think he just said like, go look over there, read on like the wall of your house, and you'll see it. All felt like a little bit strange, and then I was kind of bummed out to find out that they were all like I wanted there to be like things you could put in Kirby's house, which is part of the game that I feel like is kind of lacking more than I would like it to. Like you can put some things on your mantelpiece and you get some photographs put on the wall.
What can you put on the mantelpiece?
Of the action figures that you collect.
Oh.
You can put 3 of them up there.
Do you know what I think is so weird? And I know we're going to talk about Kirby in the Forgotten
Land. We're going to talk about
it on Thursday.
Yes.
Is in Kirby's house, there's a book, and you can look at the book and it shows you some of Kirby's past adventures, but not all of them.
Oh, not even close. It only shows you the games that are on Switch, Wii U, and 3DS.
And not even the ones that are a part of like Nintendo Switch Online, which I think is so weird.
I mean, honestly, like, why are they leaving off Kirby Superstar? Why are they leaving off Kirby's Dream Land?
Yeah,
why are they leaving off Kirby's Block Ball?
I mean, why include 3DS games on there at all at this point?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
If your goal is just to have the Kirby games that people can buy. I don't know. That part of it felt like weird.
It felt really weird. And it's also like just looking at the Kirby games that are available on Switch, there's like, here's Kirby Star Allies. That's a real game. And then it's like Kirby's Brawl nonsense. And the other, like, it's one real game and like 2 kind of bogus games where it's like, all right, we're not actually putting our best foot forward here.
But Kirby's house does have a little bed.
He does have a little bed.
Kirby can snuggle in and sleep.
Oh my God.
Those are some cute little vignettes.
Yeah. No, look, anytime it forces me back to Waddle Dee Town, I will take Kirby home and put him in bed. Oh man, I like it when Kirby sleeps.
It's cute.
I think it's good. But there's none of these codes will make Kirby sleep.
No.
Or make him sleep any cuter.
We've talked about the odd naming convention of Square Enix's recent games on Switch, and the reporters at Inverse evidently had some of the same questions because the subject was broached in an interview with Square Enix producer Toyama Asano, and he had the following insight. Quote, "We usually put a lot of thought into determining the game's titles. One of the things that we make sure that we think about is if the player can imagine what kind of game it is based on the title. When you look at Triangle Strategy, a triangle is 3 angles and then strategy. So it's a strategy game that you play from 3 angles. Octopath Traveler is also named kind of from that perspective. Octo is the 8 paths that you're traveling." Patrick, sidebar. I don't think anybody was confused by either of those titles.
No.
Those aren't the ones that were like, that's crazy.
Well, it is a little bit though, because like there is obviously what he's talking about here doesn't play into your like
Dream Drop Distance,
Kingdom Hearts Remind, all of that stuff where like you really got to do some like gymnastics.
We both went for Kingdom Hearts.
We both. Well, I mean, it's a low hanging fruit, and it's hard to think of examples on the fly. But there is something so specific about the naming conventions of Octopath Traveler and Triangle Strategy where they're like obvious and inscrutable at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's right. It does explain like 2 parts of the game, but like if you just say Triangle Strategy to someone, you have not conjured a setting in your head, right? You're like, oh, it's a strategy game, and there's going to be some 3 component.
It sounds like a trap card in Magic the Gathering.
It does. I played Triangle Strategy on your Prodigal Sorcerer. It's. I mean, I want to keep reading the quote, but like this is a specific brand of weird naming.
Totally. No, this next part is my favorite part of the quote.
Yes.
And so Asano continues, "We wanted to see what the reactions would be like behind Project Triangle Strategy. So having Project at the start of the name would give us a little bit of room to be able to change the name, but it ended up resonating with the audience, so we thought we'd keep the Triangle Strategy name." End quote, which I love so much because they're like hedging their bets. They're like, if people don't take to Triangle Strategy, we can just say this was a code name and reveal the new name.
I just want to know, where are they getting, like, what's the focus group where they're like, so we're calling this one Project Triangle Strategy, and people are like, oh, that's cool. Like, where's that room?
I think it's Twitter.
But I don't think that's what Twitter says. I don't think Twitter's like, oh yeah, Triangle Strategy. That sounds like a dope game name. I think mostly people are just responding positively to early views of these games, right? Like the early impressions that like, oh yeah, you want to see a new tactics game. You see it's in the HD 2D, and you're like, I don't care what it's called. I'm not going to understand it anyway. Like, I think that's what people are responding to, and they're like, hey, people like Triangle Strategy.
I'm trying to think of how I can work this into my, like, career.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, can I send emails, start meetings with, like, project in the title, so that way if I need to pivot.
Right, you can be like, look, this isn't actually what it's called. This is something else.
Last week, we talked about the Nintendo Wii and DSi shop channels being offline without any update from Nintendo. So you tried to log on, there was an error code, and everybody has been wondering, is this the end of the Nintendo Wii and Nintendo DSi shop channels?
Which, just as a little refresh, these are services where you could no longer purchase anything new, where you could no longer put any money on there anymore. It's simply all about re-downloading things you have already purchased.
And so at the time, Nintendo hadn't commented on at all. They just were saying nothing. But later in the week, Kotaku received a statement from a Nintendo spokesperson that says, quote, the Wii Shop channel and DSi and Nintendo DSi shop are currently undergoing maintenance. We'll provide an update at a later date.
Okay. So all of which is just to say that they were doing something to it.
So here's my conspiracy theory.
All right, let's put on the tinfoil hats. Go out to the shed where we've never brought a phone in there at all, so no one can hear what we're talking about.
That's right. And into the void I whisper, I wonder if it's a security issue. I wonder if, like, because that has to be old code.
Yes.
And so I wonder if there's some sort of, like, vulnerability or something that they discovered, and they're like, oh, just shut it down, like, pull the plug. Because, it's super old code, so are you going to spend the time to update it? Can you even update that old code at this point?
Right.
The weird way that this has gone down, and the fact that the spokesperson, all they say is, like, it's undergoing maintenance that came out of nowhere, and they'll provide an update at a later date, just has me... this is based on no information. This is complete speculation, but I wonder if it's some sort of security vulnerability.
That's interesting. Would there be any personal information associated with the Wii or DSi shop channels anymore?
Who knows? But maybe it's like a way into Nintendo's network, or at least that aspect.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean?
Well, especially because like you could marry the Wii U and Wii accounts so that like it would know that you had already purchased a virtual console game and like, you know, let you purchase it for like $1 or $2 on the new platform. So it must be tied to that in some way, which still could have credit card information, which still could have email addresses. There's still obviously a password that you used at once upon a time. So, okay, I guess that's fair. It could be a security risk there.
It could also just broken.
Right.
And they're like, wow, this is super old code. Is it worth it to fix? And everybody's just at this moment like looking at each other and no decision has been made.
Right. So they say it's undergoing maintenance, but perhaps they're like just looking around to see like how many people are complaining about this. Is it so few people that we can just not rebuild it?
Yeah, can we just like wait a few weeks and then just quietly say, hey, these things are dead?
We will doggedly stay on this story and bring you updates as they come in.
Nintendo has... One thing they have done is they've published a look back with Masahiro Sakurai at the fighter reveals for Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS.
Okay, now look. We dropped the ball on this one because we really should have done this before Masahiro Sakurai.
Oh, man, it's such a good episode topic idea.
Yeah.
Like ranking the reveal videos.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Is Masahiro Sakurai a better Nintendo Cartridge Society host than you and I put together? Possibly. Possibly. We may just have to... I don't think we're going to live that down.
Oh, man. This is an embarrassment. But it's a really fun retrospective, so you should go check it out. It's long, so we're not going to go over it in detail here, but he talks about the development of the game, the reveal videos specifically, and like some details on the fighters themselves. So we'll link it to the article in the show notes. And I think so. He's talking about Wii U and 3DS, but it seemed like they're eventually going to lead up to Ultimate as well.
Oh, okay.
So that would be fun.
Yeah, it's cool. His insights aren't, they're short, right? It's like a paragraph for each video, and it's largely about like how those videos came to be, and that means a lot of like he's naming their partners that they work with, so like animation studios and stuff like that. And it's wild to think about how many different developers and producers of like content of one form or another go into making these videos that like then they push out and they're like, this is all part of like Smash. But yeah, it's just like, it's huge. It takes a village and then some to make this game.
Yeah, and I'd never really considered that. It makes total sense that they would use outside companies to develop these, to like create these videos and animate these videos.
Yeah.
But the fact that they do work with outside companies and the name of the fighters never ever leak, is super impressive.
Yeah. I totally agree. And yeah, especially with just like how everything else leaks and like Smash stuff doesn't. It's also really cool, and made me sort of like wistful for the previous generation of Smash reveals. Because so in this article, all of the videos are embedded, so you can watch them sort of as you're reading along, which is great. Whoever put that together, like, good job. It's all very like fluid and easy. But I was watching through some of them, and like there's the Little Mac reveal, there's the Palutena reveal that are both like done in different styles. Like the Little Mac one is sort of a comic book inspired, like very minimal animation. And the Palutena one is just like straight up an anime fight between Pit and Link. And so like all of this stuff, it's just like, and then of course it pops into gameplay, but it's so cool to see them like really using different visual styles. And I think we didn't get that quite as much this last generation. Like, yeah, the Persona, the Joker reveal like looked like Persona, but like in some ways that's still just like, looks like those, the characters as they appear in Smash. I guess the King of Fighters one, the Terry Bogard, they used a lot of like pixel art in that to look like a Neo Geo King of Fighters game. But just it's neat to see the different like production techniques and like animation techniques in all these videos, and to have him point out like, oh yeah, we did this with these people because we had a relationship with them for whatever.
Yeah, I think it's fun. It was fun for me to like read back through this retrospective, because with Ultimate, you just kind of take for granted that all of these characters, from the 3DS and Wii U version,
there's a day that Mega Man was new.
We're in there, yeah. But also like just how special and unique each of these Smash Brother generations have been, because it made me thinking about like the dojo from Super Smash Brothers Brawl, where every day leading up to the release they like talked about something new in the game, which was just like a really cool, fun time.
Yeah, I mean there's so much that like Nintendo like sort of drops the ball on in like hyping up their stuff or in like marketing, where you're just like, why is this happening this way? But never with Smash. Smash, they always are like just doling out like, here are new pieces of information, and it's just like a steady, like, that's something that we could talk about every week on this show. And it's weird now that there's no more of it, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see when that like comes back.
And finally, while you're getting that new Nintendo Switch system update to add
smell
groups
that
to
new
your
system
Switch,
update,
be sure to download the new controller update. These mysterious controller updates. It's something you need to do manually. Go to like controllers and sensors and then update controllers. I still don't think anybody has any. Well, I'm sure somebody at Nintendo knows what these do, but they haven't deigned to tell us.
Right. It is unclear to the layman what a controller update has done. Have you updated your controllers recently?
I have not updated my controllers with this latest update.
I have not done the latest update either. It's a little weird that you have to like opt into it. They had to say update my controllers.
Right. That's why it's all so mysterious. It's like, why not
force it on, like, why not make it just part of the
Yeah, but then
system update.
But I guess you can update your system without having your Joy-Con
on and connected. Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that's true. But
I
if
don't
you
know.
have well, I've got 2 Joy-Con that basically live on the side of that Switch. If I turn it on and it's connected, why isn't it just like reading the firmware on them and being like, "Uh-oh, you need to be updated."
Right, and what if you never update your controllers?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like you have to and do Pro controllers get updates, or is it
Yeah,
purely
they do too. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So do you have to connect all of them at the same time?
No.
Do you connect them separately?
You do them separately, yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, and like the when you do it, it says like checking, so like it checks the controller to see,
Right.
and then it's like, oh, you're not up. Here's the update.
Somebody's got to let us know what these controller updates do.
That we just got to know. Like, do they make you go faster? Are the buttons springier? What could a controller update even be?
Yeah. Maybe like preparing HD Rumble for like Super HD Rumble. You're going to be able to tell if there's like 10 ice cubes in that glass.
Wow. Or like there are 10 ice cubes and you can tell that like 3 of them are a little bit bigger.
You're going to be able to tell like the viscosity of the liquid that the ice cubes are in.
Sure. Yes. I mean, what a great point. Are you sloshing around in a glass of milk? Or is that vodka? Like, what is it?
Getting ready for 1, 2, 3 switch.
What's thicker, milk or vodka?
Milk.
All right, Mark, let's get out of the news.
Ooh, I hope that's right.
Because you said you deadpanned
With
it.
such, yeah.
I don't have any vodka in the house. Otherwise, we could test. How would we even know? How would we compare? What tool do you use to measure viscosity of liquids? It's probably milk. That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get podcasts. If you liked this episode, please share it on Facebook or Twitter or in a sharing location of your choosing. A platform that you use to share us there. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at NinCart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thank you for listening.
I'm Brian Husky. I'm bald.
And I'm Charlie Sanders, and I'm also bald. And we host Bald Talk on the Campfire Media Network.
Bald Talk is the podcast where 2 bald comedians talk to anyone bald about being bald.
But this show isn't just for baldies, Brian. Harrows will love it too.
Bald Talk gets into vulnerability, vanity, insecurity, and self-acceptance, reminding us that we all have our respective bald spots. Not that bald spots are a bad thing.
No way. I mean, my entire head is one big bald spot.
It is one huge, beautiful bald spot, Charlie.
Get Bald Talk on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.
I mean, I have like a little bit of hair, but not like you. Like, you're really bald.
I'm truly bald.
Great. I mean, it's
I'm
great.
balder than you.
You are balder than me.
Only on Bald Talk. Campfire.